Once upon a time, in a quiet valley surrounded by silver mountains, there was a little village called Liora. Liora was known far and wide for its glowing lanterns that never went out. Every home had one, and every lantern glowed with a soft golden light, no matter the wind or rain. The villagers believed the lanterns were blessed by an old guardian spirit who lived in the mountains. In this village lived a curious boy named Cian. Cian was 12 years old, with untidy hair, bright eyes, and a heart full of restless wonder. Unlike most children who were content playing by the river or chasing fireflies, Cian always wanted to know how things worked. He would dismantle wooden toys to see how they fit together. He would sneak into the bell tower to study the giant gears. And often, he would sit by his family's lantern and wonder, what makes it glow? His grandmother, who raised him, would chuckle when he asked. "It's the guardian's blessing, child," she'd say. But Cian wasn't satisfied with such answers. He wanted to see the truth for himself. One evening, as the moon rose, Cian noticed something strange. His lantern flickered. It had never done that before. The golden flame trembled, dimmed, and then steadied. Cian's eyes widened. If the lanterns are eternal, why would it flicker, he thought. The next morning, Cian told his best friend, Liora. Liora was a spirited girl with dark braids and a mischievous smile. She loved climbing trees and daring Cian to join her in risky adventures. "Maybe it's nothing," Liora said, shrugging. "Or maybe," Cian whispered, "the guardian's blessing is fading." That thought sent shivers down both their spines. If the lanterns went out, the valley would be swallowed by endless darkness. Everyone believed the lanterns protected them from the shadows beyond. Old tales spoke of a creeping mist full of whispering voices. Without the light, the shadows could return. That night, Cian couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, staring at the flickering lantern. Finally, he decided. He would climb the mountains and find the guardian spirit. He would ask why the light was faltering. And if needed, he would bring back the flame himself. At dawn, Cian packed a satchel with bread, dried fruit, and his grandmother's warm cloak. He slipped out quietly. But as he reached the edge of the village, he heard a whisper. "Going without me?" Liora stood there with her arms crossed. "You can't come," Cian said. "It's dangerous." Liora smirked. "Which is exactly why I am coming." Cian sighed. He knew better than to argue. And so, the two friends began their journey up the misty trails of the Silver Mountains. The path twisted through tall pines and glittering streams. Sometimes, they heard the cry of hawks. Sometimes, the wind carried voices that made them quicken their steps. After hours of climbing, they reached a clearing where an old traveler sat by a fire. His beard was long, his cloak patched, and his eyes sharp as glass. "Two little ones on the mountain road," the man said. "What business have you here?" Cian explained about the flickering lantern. The man's expression grew serious. He muttered. "The light weakens. Do you know why?" Cian asked eagerly. The man poked the fire with his stick. "The guardian grows old. Its heart is weary. Without a successor, the flame may die." Cian's stomach tightened. Liora leaned forward. "So we must find the guardian, right?" The man nodded slowly. "But beware. The shadows beyond stir already." He pointed up the path. "Keep climbing until you see the crystal cavern. There, the guardian dwells." He handed Cian a tiny silver bell. "If the darkness grows too close, ring this. It will call the last sparks of light." Cian and Liora thanked him and moved on. The higher they climbed, the colder the air became. Frost clung to their boots. Snowflakes drifted like silent feathers. By nightfall, they found shelter under a rocky ledge. Cian shared bread, and Liora hummed an old lullaby. But just as they closed their eyes, a whisper rose in the dark. "Children, come closer," the shadows had found them. Black mist curled at the edges of the clearing. Figures formed inside, twisted shapes with empty eyes. Cian's heart pounded. He pulled out the silver bell and rang it desperately. A chime rang, pure and bright. The shadows hissed and pulled back. A circle of golden light spread around them. Liora clutched Cian's hand. "Don't stop ringing it." But the bell dimmed after a few seconds. It was only a temporary shield. The shadows slithered back into the woods, waiting. "We have to move faster," Cian whispered. Liora nodded, eyes wide. They spent the night in fear. But by dawn, the shadows were gone. Days passed. The mountain grew steeper. The friends grew weary but pressed on. One evening, they reached a place where the rocks glowed faintly. Blue light shimmered beneath the stone. "This must be close," Cian said. Following the glow, they stumbled upon the entrance to a cavern. Crystals jutted from the walls, casting a soft rainbow shine. It was breathtaking, like walking inside a giant lantern. But at the far end, lying upon a throne of stone, was the guardian spirit. It looked like a lion. But its mana was made of flames. Its wings were folded, feathers like molten glass. Its eyes glowed weakly, flickering like dying embers. "Who dares enter?" it rumbled, voice echoing through the cavern. Cian stepped forward, trembling. "I'm Cian of Liora. The lanterns are weakening. Please, help us." The guardian lifted its head with effort. "The flame within me fades. I have guarded your valley for centuries. But now my time ends." Liora's throat tightened. "Then, is it over? Will the shadows win?" The guardian's eyes softened. "Not if another takes the flame." Cian blinked. "Another? A successor," the guardian said. "One with courage, curiosity, and a heart full of light. The flame must be carried, or it will die forever." Cian's chest tightened. He suddenly understood. The guardian was asking him. "But I'm just a boy," he whispered. "You are more," the guardian replied. "You seek truth when others settle for stories. You walked into the mountains when others stayed safe. That is light." Liora grabbed Cian's shoulder. "You don't have to. If I don't," Cian said softly, "Liora will fall." The guardian lowered its head. And fire from its mana drifted into Cian's chest. Warmth surged through him, both fierce and gentle. His lantern heart had been lit. The guardian sighed, relieved. "Now, you are the keeper of the flame." Its body shimmered, broke apart into sparks, and faded into the crystals. Silence filled the cavern. Cian stood there glowing faintly, golden light in his eyes. Liora looked at him in awe. You're shining," she whispered. Cian touched his chest. He felt both powerful and heavy with responsibility. But before they could speak more, a deep roar shook the cavern. Shadows poured in through the cracks. They had followed. Liora pulled out a stick to fight. But Cian raised his hand. Light burst from his palm. It blazed across the cavern, burning the shadows to mist. The darkness wailed and vanished. Cian gasped. I did that." Liora grinned. "Guess you really are the keeper now." Together, they left the cavern, following the crystal glow down the mountain. Along the way, shadows tried to attack. But Cian's light held them back. Finally, after days of travel, they returned to Liora. The villagers gasped when they saw the children. Cian's lantern heart glowed so brightly it lit the whole square. He raised his hand. And every lantern in every home flared with new life. The valley shone brighter than ever before. His grandmother wept with joy. The people celebrated for days. Liora told the story to anyone who would listen, exaggerating a little to make herself seem braver. Cian, though, stayed humble. He knew the light was not just power. It was duty. At night, when the village was safe and the lanterns burned strong, Cian sat by the river. Liora joined him, tossing pebbles into the water. "So," she said, "keeper of the flame, what now?" Cian smiled softly. "Now, I protect the light. Always." The shadows still lurked beyond the mountains. But as long as Cian lived, they would never breach Liora. The flame would endure. The valley would glow forever. And the story of the boy who became the keeper of the flame would be told for generations. But what the villagers didn't know was that the shadows whispered a name in the dark. "Cian," they hissed. For though he held the flame, the shadows would never stop trying. One day, a greater test would come. But for now, peace reigned. Children played under lantern light. Grandmothers told stories by the hearth. Farmers worked in golden fields. And above them all, the lanterns burned steady, never flickering again. Cian slept peacefully that night, the flame within him humming like a lullaby. Liora dreamed of climbing higher mountains, seeking new adventures. And in the distance, beyond the valley, the shadows waited, patient and silent. But they could not enter, for the light was too strong. The balance had been restored. The lantern of Liora still shone. As years passed, Cian grew older. He trained others in the way of the flame. Some could carry sparks, though none shone as brightly as he. Liora became a fearless explorer, mapping hidden valleys and forgotten ruins. And though they walked different paths, they always returned to the riverbank to share stories. The flame bound them forever. One day, Cian told Liora, "When my time ends, the flame must pass on again." Liora laughed. "You talk like an old man already." "Maybe," Cian said. "But the light is bigger than me. It must never die." Liora grew quiet. "Then I'll make sure it doesn't." "Promise?" Cian smiled. "I know you will." Seasons changed. Winters came and went. Lanterns burned through storms, floods, and winds. And always, at the heart of it all, Cian's light guided them. The people of Liora flourished. The valley grew more beautiful than ever. Songs were sung of the keeper and his companion. Children named their games after their mountain journey. And the shadows became only a story to frighten little ones. But sometimes, late at night, Cian still heard whispers at the edge of the valley. They reminded him that the world beyond was vast and dangerous. Yet he no longer feared. For he had faced the dark before and carried the flame through it. He knew he would again, if ever needed. On his grandmother's last day, she held his hand and said, "I told you it was the guardian's blessing, child." Cian laughed softly. "You were right, grandmother." She smiled. "And now the blessing lives in you." After she passed, Cian lit a lantern in her memory that burned brighter than the rest. It never flickered. Years rolled on like rivers. Cian became a symbol of hope. Children grew up under his light. Villagers never forgot the boy who had once climbed the mountains, nor the girl who had never left his side. And so, every night before bed, parents told their children the story of a boy named Cian, of a girl named Liora, of a guardian whose flame passed on, and of how the light would always endure as long as brave hearts carried it. The children listened with wide eyes. They fell asleep dreaming of glowing crystals and golden manes. They dreamed of ringing bells and chasing shadows. They dreamed of being keepers of the flame themselves one day. And the lanterns outside their windows glowed softly, keeping watch. The valley slept in peace. The stars twinkled above, as if bowing to the greater light below. The river whispered lullabies to the stones. The fields swayed gently in the night breeze. And the mountain stood tall, hiding the cavern where it all began. Kian's flame flickered gently inside him, warm and steady. Liora slept under the same stars, dreaming of her next adventure. The shadows, far away, whispered still, but quietly. For the light of Liora was too strong for them. And as long as it shone, the valley would remain safe. The story of the lantern of Liora had no end. For the light would never die. It lived in every lantern. It lived in every song. It lived in every heart that dared to hope. And so, dear dreamer, when you close your eyes tonight, remember the boy who became the keeper. Remember the girl who stood by his side. Remember the flame that never fades. And know that light lives in you too. Rest now. The lanterns are watching. The valley is safe. The shadows cannot reach you. Sleep, little dreamer. For the flame will always burn.